Amelia Davenport lived in a mansion that could be mistaken for a royal palace. Tall marble pillars guarded the entrance, chandeliers glittered above, and the air smelled faintly of imported lilies. To outsiders, her life was the very definition of perfection. At 35, Amelia had inherited her late father's billion-dollar empire: hotels, luxury brands, real estate. She was intelligent, elegant, and feared in the boardroom. But behind the gold-plated gates, her life was unbearably lonely. Her mother had passed when she was a teenager, her father just 3 years ago, and her so-called friends were more interested in her wealth than her soul. In the grand halls of her mansion, there was order. There was beauty, but there was no warmth. One autumn morning, the head butler introduced a new member of staff. "This is Mr. James Whitlock," the butler announced. "Will serve as a housekeeper and assist in maintaining the West Wing." James was 61, with silver hair, deep lines around his eyes, and hands roughened by years of work. His movements were efficient and careful, as though he did not wish to disturb the silent world Amelia had built. She barely noticed him at first. In her eyes, he was simply another member of the invisible army of staff that kept her world polished. But James was not like the others, and soon Amelia would find out why. It happened on a Thursday evening. The city was drowning in rain. Thunder rolled across the sky. She planned a retreat to her private library with a glass of wine, but as she passed the drawing room, she froze. Through the half-open door came a sound she hadn't heard in years. Music. It was soft at first, the hesitant beginning of a melody. It's almost fragile, but then it swelled, each note carrying a depth of emotion that gripped her chest. Amelia stepped inside quietly. There was James, seated at the grand piano her mother had loved, but left untouched for decades. His fingers moved slowly but surely over the keys. The song was not one she recognized. It was his own. And then began to sing. His voice was deep, a little rough, but it carried a heartbreaking tenderness. The lyrics spoke of longing, of nights spent alone, of love that never came. When the song ended, the silence in the room felt alive. James turned, startled. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." Amelia interrupted, stepping closer. He looked down, almost embarrassed. "A lifetime ago. Before life had other plans." "Wrote that song?" she asked. "Yes," he said quietly. "But it's just an old thing, doesn't matter anymore." "It matters," Amelia said, surprising herself. "Play it again." And he did. Over the next few weeks, Amelia found herself lingering in the drawing room more often. Sometimes she would pretend to be reading while James played. Other times she would ask him about the songs, where they came from, who they were for. In pieces she learned his story. He had once dreamed of becoming a pianist. In his youth, he played at weddings, bars, anywhere that would let him touch a keyboard. But his dreams had been cut short when he married young and took a stable job to support his wife. She had fallen ill years later, and James had devoted himself entirely to caring for her until she passed away. After that, he had sold almost everything and taken odd jobs. Music, he thought. His music was like sunlight breaking into a cold room. She began smiling more, sleeping better. The staff noticed. One afternoon, Amelia overheard two maids whispering in the kitchen. "They say Madam spends hours listening to the old housekeeper. I heard she even asks him to play during her dinners." There was a hint of judgment in their voices. Amelia didn't care, but she knew the world outside. These walls would be far less forgiving. The turning point came during a winter charity gala Amelia hosted. She wanted something different from the usual string quartet, so she asked James to play for the guests. He hesitated but agreed. That night, as crystal glasses clinked and gowns shimmered, James sat at the piano. The room fell quiet as he played. His music carried warmth into every corner, and when he began to sing, some guests wiped tears from their eyes. But then it happened. A wealthy businessman, slightly drunk, leaned over to another guest and laughed loudly. "Amelia, I didn't know you kept a pet musician in your staff quarters. How quaint." A ripple of awkward laughter followed. James stopped playing mid-note. He stood, gave a polite nod, and walked out of the room. The following days were painfully quiet. The piano lid remained shut. James kept to his duties, but avoided Amelia. Finally, she found him in the garden, trimming roses. "You stopped playing?" she said softly. "It's not my place," he replied without looking at her. "Not your place." Her voice broke slightly. "Your music. It's the only thing that's made me feel alive in years." James looked up then, his eyes heavy. "And what would people say, Amelia, being the billionaire and the servant? I'm old enough to be your father." "I don't care," she whispered. "I only care about what makes me feel human again." On her 36th birthday, Amelia entered the drawing room to find candles lit around the piano. James sat waiting. Without a word, he began to play it. It was a new song, softer, more hopeful, yet aching with something deeper. His voice was steady, and the lyrics spoke of finding love when you least expect it, of healing from years of loneliness. When the last note faded, Amelia's eyes were wet. "That's beautiful," she said. "It's yours," he replied. "Always." World did talk. When photographs of Amelia and James walking in the garden reached the tabloids, the headlines were brutal. Heiress and her servant, scandal in high society. Her board of directors warned her. Friends told her it would ruin her image. But Amelia had lived her entire life for appearances. For the first time, she wanted to live for her heart, and so she chose him. Years later. The Davenport mansion was no longer silent. Every evening, music flowed through the halls. Sometimes James played alone. Sometimes Amelia joined him, laughing when she missed a note. People still whispered about their love story. But now it was spoken of not as scandal, but as proof that love could cross any divide. And in the drawing room, under the soft glow of candlelight, James still played the song that had stolen her heart.